Yeah, that's.
We good? All right. Board of Aldermen work sessions called to order. First item on the agenda is the discussion of the SRO program. Is that, can you kick it off to you or Chief, or who's going first?
I would just note that we provided a memo in the packet that's posted online outlining the process that we've gone through to date. The SRO program is included, back up a little bit. The information that has been discussed is also in the packet. A memo providing a history and background on the SRO program was included as part of the packet that was provided to the board for the budget retreat. The memorandum of understanding expires in September, but it also contains a renewing clause so that if it does expire without being renewed, it does renew. There's also a timeline for any cancellation. The current MOU expires in September, and as part of budget development, and remember that the budget is fiscal year 27 budget, the 26 budget goes through October 31st of this year. So our current budget remains in effect. We wanted information from the board with regard to direction of how to move forward in the MOU discussion. And there were some questions, and we've communicated that information to the school administration. Have had public questions come up, and so we want to take the opportunity this evening for the district to provide some questions to answers to questions that the board has had, and provide opportunity for discussion between the governing body and the school district with regard to the SRO program in order to help staff develop the 2027 budget that we will bring forward for approval in the coming weeks. So this discussion informs our later discussion on development of the 27 budget, yet on the agenda tonight. The memo that's outlined in the packet outlines staff's recommendation at this point in time. The 2026 budget, as I noted earlier, does include funding for the SRO. The position is always funded. The 26 budget includes revenues anticipated from the school district for reimbursement for time in the school as outlined in the MOU. So our budget goes through October 31st, which is more than 2/3 of the first semester of the school year. Staff would recommend that we continue the funding and placement of an SRO in the school for the first semester of the year. And in that interim time, to work with the school district on the memorandum of understanding and process moving forward for the SRO. But we need direction from the governing body on that for that inclusion in the 27 budget. And we would also like feedback from the board for any questions that you have or items to be considered in that MOU discussion, if that's the direction the board wishes to proceed. So wanted to bring both groups together to be able to ask questions of one another and have some discussion and obtain feedback from the governing body on how we should move forward in that process.
Thank you. And you got the mobile mic, right? So you can just hand it to Mark if we need to. You don't need to stand at the podium if you don't want to.
Just one reminder, there is a button on the side that you'll need to turn on to ensure that it is on when presenting.
Good evening, and thank you to everyone for being here tonight. First, I want to express my appreciation to both the city and the school district for coming together for this workshop. Following the recent Board of Aldermen meeting, where we heard from parents, community members, and others who spoke about the importance of the SRO program, I think tonight's conversation is both important and necessary. This is clearly an issue our community cares deeply about, and for good reason. For approximately 25 years, the Smithville School District and the City of Smithville have partnered through the SRO program. A lot has changed over those 25 years. Our schools have grown, our community has grown, and the way we approach school safety has evolved. But what hasn't changed is the value of this partnership and our shared responsibility to provide the best possible safety and security for our students and staff. From the Smithville School District's perspective, our goal tonight is clear. We want to continue this partnership and renew our commitment and agreement with the city for a dedicated school resource officer. Over the years, the district has strengthened school security by adding 4 SPOs, or school protection officers. Those SPOs are extremely valuable, and we appreciate the work they do every day. I think something has been made very clear throughout this discussion. SPOs and SROs are both valuable, but they are not interchangeable. Adding school protection officers did not eliminate the value or the need for a dedicated SRO. The SRO provides a direct connection to the Smithville Police Department, law enforcement authority, and resources, and perhaps most importantly, the opportunity to build consistent daily relationships with students and staff. Turn on the news and we're reminded why school safety has to remain one of our highest priorities. We should continue asking ourselves what more we can do to protect our schools, not what layers of protection we can remove. Tonight isn't about looking backwards or assigning blame. It's an opportunity for two organizations that have successfully partnered for a quarter century to sit together, listen to one another, and determine how we can continue that partnership moving forward. The school district wants to continue the SRO program. We want to renew this agreement, and we believe having both our SPO and SRO provides an important layered approach to protecting our students and staff. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Collins.
Thank you, everybody. I have a few notes written down here that just don't want to trip all over myself talking to you. Nice to be here, and thank you for having us. One of the first areas is what area school districts do. What are others doing? I believe that was one of the questions, and I am part of the North Kansas City Area Directors Team. In that meeting, there's a plethora of schools from the Kansas City area, and we all meet in North Kansas City School District facility. There's FBI, Homeland Security, all these different presenters that come. But in the meantime, the byproduct is that we get to talk to each other and we get to collaborate with other school districts. So this slide will show you that there's a variety of practices, whether that's partnership with the city, county, for SROs or internal SPOs. For us, that's a combination of both. Private agencies that specialize in school safety, you will find those. Think of it like your Strategos of the world. I don't know if you've heard that name before, but those are some of those private partnerships. Our yearly safety securities, annual safety drills and all, that would include fire, tornado, earthquake, intruder, bus evacuation. All those good things are requirements for those. There are 2 fire, 2 tornado, 1 earthquake, 2 intruder, and 2 bus evacuation. Moving to the right, it's a little bit fast, but moving to the right is the facility walkthrough with key partners. Every year we call out Missouri Highway Patrol, our own Smithville PD, along with our building SRO or SPO, whoever's in that building, and administrative teams. And we walk the building and look for different things that could be wrong. And we're thinking about who would respond first to the building and what do they see as a potential area of growth or something that we're doing good. They're really good about being positive what we're good at. Next one is biannual internal safety meetings. We have those meetings. I know there are set 2 meetings of me and SROs, but we talk quite frequently. Example, homecoming may come up. We'll have a whole nother meeting about just homecoming. That's an example of just meetings that happen that are not scheduled. Building level safety teams. We'll talk a little bit about who's on those teams. It's a variety of stakeholders on that next slide. And then the certified school safety specialist is something that I have. That was a 3-day training to get your initial certification. And then it's 8 hours per year of continuing ed. And I have exceeded that by far, just trying to make sure we keep our schools safe. The last one's on SPOs. There's a bunch of different things we do with our SPOs, whether that be firearm qualifying, which I'd like to thank City of Smithville for working with us with that, and you partner heavily with us when it's time to qualify at the range. So thank you to Sergeant Morgan for stepping up and helping there. But in that would be MANT training, to be skill development, de-escalation techniques that you have to remember law enforcement are working with students now. So those things we all go over. There's the building level safety teams. It includes everybody from the admin to SRO, nurses, counselors, the behavior interventionists, administrative assistants, and just depending on the building, 2 to 4 additional staff members. So that could be just depending on the size and that person's job and role. There's 2 to 4 additional staff members that are part of those teams. This one's big, emergency operating procedures. The district was early adopters in March of 2023, we adopted all of our EOPs for every building. It wasn't mandated until 2025, so applause for integrating that quickly. Now the EOP covers a little bit of everything: emergencies, fire, tornado, cardiac event, chemical spills. I think I even saw wild animals on the campus. That was probably one of the things so everything in between. It kind of is a very comprehensive plan for dealing with things. Each one's reviewed and updated annually. This year, for example, we will start next year with the training, and we'll talk about how last year went and which processes that we want to update as far as safety and security. I think that's it for me. All right.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity this evening, and just a little bit of history. While Whitney was able to share kind of the long-term history, it was in 22-23 that the district worked with the city and put together an MOU to add that second SRO. In that program, there was a multi-year step up to where the district would take on the full cost of that SRO, and we had budgeted for that each of those years, and did appreciate that step in as the helped the district out significantly when we were struggling financially. So did appreciate that step from 2022 all the way to 2025. In 24-25, there was just some staffing challenges, and I want you guys to know that we fully appreciated all of the conversations that Chief Lockridge had with us about not being able to provide that second SRO. And we personally wanted him to have officers on the streets, taking care of the city. So he has always been very communicative with us, and many times would join Cynthia and I's monthly meetings whenever it was necessary. And there was never a time that he hadn't communicated with us regularly about anything with the SRO program. So while we were only able to have one SRO during that 24-25 school year, it was not due to lack of effort, and we fully knew and understood why that had occurred. Because of that, our board's goal was to have an armed person in each of our buildings. That's why we shifted to the 1 SRO and 4 SPO system that we have now. There are differences between those, which I'll talk about in a couple of slides, but that was the reason for that change. Go to the next slide. As Whitney shared, we would love to continue this program and have that model that we have now, and are open to any type of discussion of expanding the SRO program. I think it would be great to do collaboratively. I know that there's some staffing changes occurring in the police department. Chief Lockridge has always been a great partner, and bringing more people into that. If we want to expand that program, we would certainly be open. We just want to make sure that we have that ongoing conversation so we have the same understanding. And then kind of why Smithville Police Department and why that we value this partnership so much, and hopefully you do as well. All of our schools are within the city limits. When I even think about just me driving down here, I saw a Smithville police officer driving up Commercial. The people that our students and that our community members are more than likely to interact with our Smithville Police Department. We want that relationship for our students to have with law enforcement officers. It has also been a long established and one that I think is effective. Are there opportunities to improve? Absolutely. We'd be happy to have those discussions. And if you guys remember a couple years ago, we had a little bit of a nervous first day at Eagle, and the people that responded first were Smithville Police Department. I think there were 3 officers on the corner of that building within 60 seconds of the call. If you guys don't remember, there was a concern about a gentleman sitting in his car with a firearm. Smithville Police Department was right there. Chief Lockridge was in immediate communication with our principal at the time, Denise Harwood, and myself. It was great to see that type of response, and we greatly appreciate it. So some of the differences and why we think that SRO is so important is that there are limitations. While we are fortunate to have, I believe, over 100 years, is that right, Justin, of law enforcement experience, all of our SPOs are retired law enforcement officers. There are differences. They're retired. Mm-hmm. They are non-commissioned, certified, a lot of training. Justin just hit kind of the tipping point of it. They go through a lot of training, but it isn't that direct communication with all emergency agencies that an SRO has. And there's also some feedback that we can get from an SRO as they look at our EOPs and different plans as well. And it does give us a direct connection to Smithville, or to Smithville, the city of Smithville. So I think you can.
It's Linda
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or it's Matt.
or Matt,
You guys got me confused.
musical mice.
I'll just keep looking left and right. You guys tell me which way to look. As we look at the SRO responsibilities, please note, there, I believe, are in that contract or MOU, there is an A through R of responsibilities. This year, just a couple that we find valuable. Again, that feedback on our EOPs, although those EOPs are 90 pages, it is great to have another set of eyes on them from a non-education lens. With all of us being educators, and we like having a visible law enforcement officer. We think that that's a relevant experience for our students. And it is different when there is a police car in front of our buildings. The SRO has always been a tremendous resource. If it's our teachers with classes, with parent groups, and sometimes it's even that parent that may be having a struggle with their kid, that the SRO could have a conversation with or provide some support or guidance. And again, that direct call and lifeline to Smithville Police Department, we value greatly. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I know that Cynthia had shared some questions and I emailed you guys as well. I didn't necessarily bring those up here as I felt like I'd emailed those and answered those for you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
I was reading through the memorandum of understanding and under item 4, the terms of the agreement, or item 5, duties of school resource officers, provide a classroom resource for law education using approved materials. What we were shared at our retreat was that classroom time has been reduced. That's a concern. If we want the SRO in the school, why are they not being in the classrooms more like they used to be, like 30 classes or whatever, and like last year it was just 10?
So I can only speak to since I've been here. I have not had that request and I'm not aware of that request from our current SRO or from the police department. If that is something that we want to look at, whether it's in every third grade classroom, that's a very arbitrary stat, or in front of different grade levels, we can certainly look at that. We are fully staffed right now and could rotate people if there is like a need to visit all elementaries. Certainly be open to that. I am unaware of that request though, to have classroom time.
Well, it's in the memorandum of understanding.
And does it define?
It says to provide a classroom resource for law education using approved materials. And then they have to make appearances before school groups, parent groups, and other groups associated with the campus, and as a speaker on a variety of requested topics, particularly law enforcement, crime prevention, and drug alcohol abuse. Then the SRO may be asked by the district to provide community-wide crime preventions that include but not limited to, again, drug and the law, adult and juvenile, alcohol and law, adult and juvenile, sexual assault prevention, safety programs, adult and juvenile, assist in other crime prevention programs as assigned. Is that done?
It says may. So when we've had that request, we've asked.
Okay. Then over the duties of the school district. Provide an office furnishings, telephone and a computer to the SRO for his or her use in the school and in privacy as needed. Is that done? Does he have that in each building? Or is it, I guess my question is the SRO in every school building or is he just in one
So
building?
SRO is currently assigned to the most. If there's a desire to rotate that, we can certainly look at that, but all of our SPOs and SROs do have a private area in our building, which can be interchangeable
Okay.
based on who's there. I believe they all use laptops. Is that correct, Justin?
Because I know one of the questions I asked was, does the SRO go to each building like a set day? He's here on Monday, here on Tuesday. Is there a present in each one of the buildings in a week's time?
No, currently he is at the middle school. That is on
Okay.
our main campus where we have the most students. Previously, before our SBOs, we did not have anyone at Horizon. Was the main reason we had placed them there. And then we added the 2 SBOs. They were actually at Maple and Eagle. So asked Officer Buckeye to kind of bounce between both buildings until this year when we were able to secure that final SBO at Horizon.
Okay, yeah, I think you kind of touched on it, and I think Dr. Collins did too. So the annual meeting between the city is that at least the chief and the school conducted that annual prior to each school year and a recap at the end of the school year?
I would say ongoing. I don't know if we do a formal recap. I think that would be a push for us to consider. And I would encourage that to be done by or around, we could use tax day, April 15th. That gives us a pretty good look
Because I
at
think
how that school year looks, and also gives us the ability to start shifting what our plans would be for the next school year and give our buildings time to work whatever that plan would be into their schedule.
that's the one thing I didn't highlight in the memorandum of understanding, but I think it's in there that those would be conducted.
So I'll speak from a school district perspective. I think I get to meet with Chief Lockridge 3 or 4 times a year. Justin meets with him formally a couple times a year, but then the calls and communication are on. Before homecoming, we have a fairly strong buildup to ensure that we are providing the correct safety measures, following what that city expects. So there are times where it certainly ramps up. I would also say that any time that there is an unexpected thing, I think we had a water main break this year right outside of the school. The city was the first to call. I know Chief and his team would have been up there. We would have need traffic directed or anything else. So there is a lot of communication that isn't formally done. But it's far more than monthly that we communicate with Chief Lockridge or Chief Lockridge communicates with us.
So are you saying, I guess I want to wrap my head around the classroom sessions that the SRO might have. Is that up to his discretion to come to the administration of, hey, I would like to do a class on drug prevention?
Yeah, great question. I think that's the way it's been treated. And I think what an opportunity could be is there something more formal? There are some, I can speak, and I worked with Deputy Archer and at Oak Park High School, and there were some classes that he would consistently go in just based on that curriculum and topic. But if there is some programming, I think there'd be an opportunity. I know Smithville PD works closely with CIA as well. And that's another resource that our students get in a lot of things, like less on the crime prevention, but more on the drugs and alcohol and those other pieces.
And I guess one of the things that we had at our retreat was just a recap of the whole program and where it's at now compared to maybe where it was at even 5 years ago or so. Said the combination of a reduced need for building security and reduced classroom interaction has diminished 2 of the traditional core functions of the SRO position. While the SRO program continues to provide value through summer programs, daily student interaction, and relationship building, the current structure should be evaluated in light of these changes. So I think that's definitely something that we need to really talk about and move forward with. And I, for one, feel like if it continues, it needs to be a much more formal memorandum of understanding and accountability on both
On both
sides.
sides.
I think there are a lot of area districts we can pull from as well to gain some of that insight. I'm a big believer in find out things that people are doing well and borrow them. Steal them is another way to look at it, but I think there is that opportunity. I also don't want you to think that, in the 24-25 school year, there were times where Officer Buckeye was covering both schools, Horizon and the middle school, and then also potentially pull back. That was just the reality of it. We were not upset with it. So sometimes that the unknown is hard to plan for. And that previous year, we kind of had 2 solid up until April of that year, then just staffing changed that. But I think there is that opportunity, and our SPOs could rotate over to the middle school. Buckeye, goes over to Eagle or Maple during a certain time. I do want to make sure that we don't forget there is value in knowing the kids within the building and that kid having a trusted adult that they can go talk to, that they see as an officer, although we only have 1 commissioned officer currently with the school district, that is Officer Buckeye. But there is a relationship piece, and those middle school years it's the second, the only time you change more physically and chemically is ages 2 and 4 in middle school. So there's a lot of changes that those kids are going through, and I do think that there is value for him building those relationships and those kids seeing a positive role model in a police officer, because they're not always portrayed very well. And I think we're very lucky to have the leadership and law enforcement agency that we have in our city.
I think I've got a question probably for Dr. Collins. You were talking about the area schools, meeting with the FBI and different things there at North Kansas City. And I know this is a lot bigger school district. I'm not going to name it, but it's in the metro area where my granddaughters go. And I'm thinking, and that's fine. I'm not going to name it, but my question is, are there schools in the metro that have their own police force and SROs separate from a police department? They may have a relationship with the police department. And that's what I'm trying to find out. Is more like a college campus and they have their own. Can that happen
Yeah.
with funding?
Blue Springs is the one that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
Theirs is about 20 years, I think, at this point. It kind of built in a different time, you know, before SPOs, before there's now a ranger program as well that the state of Missouri approved during the last legislative session. I'm loosely familiar with it, so I could not speak deeply with it, but I think
Yeah.
Blue Springs is probably the one you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Liberty, I think, dipped their toe in that way, if I remember right, but then I think they shifted away from it with that SPO program. I don't think that they created their own police department the way Blue Springs.
Okay, okay, because I was just curious. I was trying to find out how that was funded and if that was something going forwards, not necessarily Smithville Police Department, but the school district looking at a funding mechanism, whether that's going to the taxpayers again for a specific tax for school resource officers in each building. I think there's importance. You're concerned about the middle school, and I get that. But you mentioned here what happened in Eagle Heights and the concern and how fast the police responded. So other things can happen. So I'm just curious if that's something that should be considered.
You know, I would have to learn more about Blue Springs and we started the SPO program and Dr. Collins is not here for this. We actually reached out to multiple agencies about commissioning our officers, and that was the bridge that we could not complete. We had no agency interested in commissioning our SPOs. So I think that would be one of the partnerships we would be looking at. I don't know if Blue Springs is commissioned through Blue Springs Police Department.
I don't know.
I would have to find that out, but
Yeah.
There are examples where other school districts have, through a local agency, commissioned their officers. I can't speak to Blue Springs,
I can't either.
but that is one of the things we actually searched for fairly strongly, is to try to find someone to commission, which we didn't have anyone.
So I just didn't know, like in that group meetings where you had, if there was any that was involved there that.
So
that
when
did
we
that.
show up to this meeting, just for frame of reference, there's literally 50 people in here and there's all these different structures of how they do things. There's everything from law enforcement to a school administrator, to a high school principal, to the people that are in the role of the director of security in the role. That looks different for a lot of different people. And like you said, Liberty was the closest I can remember. I didn't even know about Blue Springs, but there's a lot of different variations on school safety. And I would say not only limited to that version.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all of my questions. Thank you.
I have a quick question. I do appreciate you folks explaining the details of the SRO. I thought I knew most of them, but there's some good ones there, and I appreciate it and I respect it. I have no kids here, but I think it's a very, very valuable program, and I agree with it. The one concern I have is I was under the impression that the SRO officer or officers was able to touch base with all the schools. And if these values of the SRO officers are that important, which I think they are, I kind of hate to limit it to one school. Now, I do know that, and I respect your explanation of why it's the middle school. Maybe we can get them to all the school, even it might be weighted heavily on the middle school. That's great. You know where they're needed more than anything else, but I hate to see the other schools miss out on any kind of opportunity that you guys presented.
And Mr. Atkins, we can revisit that. And just for frame of reference, this year is the first year we had. So in August or September, we made that last hire. That was the first time we had all the buildings covered.
Okay,
And so it's a fairly new concept to us. I think that leaves room in the MOU to have discussions
Good.
and improvement.
excellent. Thank you.
I can kind of piggyback off Marv for just a second. And board, correct me if I say anything wrong on this, but I think we were really looking to evolve the program into something better than it currently is. So we were looking at, you guys have been funding the SRO at the middle school. But essentially, primarily, he's doing the exact same thing that all the other SPOs are doing at all the other buildings, making sure students are protected as best as they can be there. I asked the question to the police department, if this officer steps away and an SPO is put in his place, is there any risk to the children not being protected as they are currently? And they explained pretty much like hands-on reasons, no, they're in good hands with the SPOs. So if we remove that SRO from that school and replace it with an SPO, and then, so that would be the funding of the school district stays the same, but then as our on-duty police officers during the day make rotations through the schools, we get them into the classrooms more. We get more faces to see more students, getting them more exposure with each officer. I think we thought that would provide even a safer environment for the kids, an extra layer, more familiarity with the schools. And I think that's kind of where our heart came from. And I guess I would just like to know your feedback. Like, do you think that would be more valuable, or like, I know the SRO is valuable, and I think that response time and direct communication is important, and that would be potentially an area that would lack. But I think we really just wanted to see more police presence in more schools, and that's why we're looking to shift that program.
Yeah, for us, I call it the bat phone. So that direct line of communication to dispatch and other agencies and people that are coming on that we just don't have the capability of. That is outside of our realm. Is this on?
Yeah, and you might just have to hold it
Yeah,
closer.
I can hold it closer. Is it outside of that realm? So that's why we like Officer Buckeye there, and a rotation can easily be figured out. So there is that exposure to all buildings. Officer Buckeye does get a lot of exposure to high school as well, just through different events and graduation and football games and those different things. So he really a 6-12 exposure is what I'd say he gets the most basketball games.
Okay.
And there is certainly value at the elementary level, but there is a value in having a police officer and a police car on campus. And on our main campus where about 1,600 students and 175 employees show up every day. You know, there is a sense, and we actually asked our staff twice a year if they feel like they're safe. Do they feel like they're safe when they come here? As Maslow's hierarchy tells us, that's a very important piece. And they do feel safer now. And I think it is because we have people at each building, but I do think we lose something when we don't have an SRO. And I do think that there are opportunities that can enhance that program or take it to the next place. Please know, I believe we've offered free lunch in how many years now with, I'm looking at Andrea, she's our historian sometimes. But please know, we have always offered breakfast and lunch to officers if they stop by. I do want to give Officer Buckeye and Chief Lockridge a lot of credit. I have multiple times in different buildings just been stopping by to say hi and seen new officers being introduced. And I know that that wasn't their only stop. They went to all the buildings and toured those. So I do appreciate that. But we would love to have them come in and have lunch, and we're happy to pay for that. It is a school lunch. Everyone can have their own opinion. If they want to bring their own, they can still come eat it with our place. Or if they want to bring their favorite kid Taco Bell, I'm confident that kid would be happy with it. But I do think that there is an added benefit to that SRO. And it's not that our SPOs don't have the experience in those different things. It's just not the same capabilities.
Thank you.
So while the topic's fresh in your mind, why don't the SPOs carry radios?
They all have radios, same as our administrative.
I mean, radios that are tied into our system, because really, if they have to get a hold of Buckeye and then Buckeye has to call it in, it's just faster to call non-emergency or 911, right?
We have our radios that say be happy to tap in. There's also a awareness of what that dispatch looks like. All of our current officers are former KCPD. So
Yeah, as I've said, you said they're all former law enforcement, so they know how to use it. I mean, yeah, it's,
We would need to check on that partially. We operate off of Platte County's
Right.
regional system. It's not ours, which is actually a part of what's called the MARS system, which is a metro-wide system. So I'm not even sure if that's capable or if we can get permission for that.
gotcha.
Right now, I don't know of anybody on that system that's not a sworn law enforcement officer or fire or ambulance. But I can send a couple emails, check with somebody smarter than
Okay.
me.
Thank you. Kabilski or Hartman? What do you got? Who wants to go next?
You can go, because I'm still getting my notes together. Well, because they've all touched on everything, so
Yeah.
I gotta kind of pull through it.
No, fair enough. Dr. Moss, Dr. Collins, thank you. In the school board, I know this is a very busy time of year. I'm assuming the rest of the board is scattered, back to school night and other activities, but thank you for answering those questions. Dr. Collins, I believe you were fairly accurate in explaining to us kind of how you get together with other law enforcement agencies. And it's important that those agencies talk among each other on a consistent basis, right? We want them to be getting along and you know, I know that along with, and I've just got a couple other questions, or just a statement. I know that over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of progress achieved in getting our public safety sales tax, getting, you know, competitive in our salaries, we've got a captain, another captain in the process of hiring, and that'll help us be better. You know, no one ever bats 1,000. So certainly, I think on accountability of the MOU, I think that goes both sides. I don't think there's one, you know, responsible party that let it down. I mean, just as much our responsibility as it is yours. So what I'm hearing is that really, if we move forward with this, it's a great opportunity to get better, right? That's what we want to do. I know that from my understanding, so I was unfortunately not at the border retreat. I was in Washington, D.C., attending an event, but I did, when I got back, quickly try to get my arms around things. And I think as Wendy spoke earlier, there was a lot of emotion, and I'm glad we can lay that aside, you know, on decisions that are made. But specifically, I know other districts, as I was talking to Chief and I was talking to asking the question, what do other districts do? It sounds like we've got the Clay County Sheriff very involved in some of these other districts. Has there been any thought of reaching out to them or engaging them as well in this program?
Yeah, we talked with the Clay County Sheriff, and I worked with school resource deputies in North Kansas City. That is their primary partnership school district that they work with. And we've talked with Sheriff Aiken several times on multiple occasions. So certainly an option. Our preference is to work with some police departments. If that's not something you guys are interested, we can certainly pursue other options.
No, I appreciate that. It sounds like you have. I just, it was one of my questions that wanted to answer. In the future, as potentially the school district grows, our population is going to grow. We're going to need more officers. Is there a thought of adding more SPOs in budget years ahead? Is that something that your board has talked about?
I think safety and security is always part of our conversation. Dr. Collins provides an update to our board every single month on different things that are going on. We feel really good where we're at. We've made some big leaps forward from, you know, one SRO, one SPO to now where we have someone in each of our buildings, always looking to expand in those different things. It's just there's, you know, we all have budgets that we have to make sure and fit in with and make sure that we stay diligent with our taxpayer funds. So I think while we're comfortable right now, we're always looking at ways to improve. And if we do grow, and certainly if we were to add another building, put students in, we would immediately look to add staff.
Okay, excellent. Finally, you know, I appreciate, I don't think it was ever communicated as well as you did this evening, and Dr. Collins as well, that the main purpose of this SRO is kind of that direct line, right? And I value that. I understand. I know Chief's gonna look into, you know, kind of if there's ability to tie in our radios or not, but that's important. I think if the rest of the board decides that, you know, this is something we want to continue into the budget, future budget years, I think the message is there that we want to do our very best to be a good partner, and I believe you do as well. And so hopefully we can get better, right? I mean, that's what it's about. So.
I do have one question, and it came from someone in the community about the district's behavioral threat assessment team. Can the SRO attend that next year? Okay, because I don't think he was at the last one, so I just want to make sure that, I think that's a big, as we grow, I think that's going to be important. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of piggyback off of everybody. I would like to see us come together, you know, get the MOU. I'd like to see reporting, better meetings, better communication. I would like to see him at all of the school buildings, because I think it's important that people see a police car in front of, at random times at all the school buildings, not just the middle school. Let's see. I'm just trying to not like be repetitive, but I don't want to miss anything either. I would like to see more mentoring, him more classroom time, figure out a way to have more classroom time, more education piece of it, so he can have more time to develop relationships with all the buildings. Like I said, you know, measurable annual goals in the position for regular reporting on both bodies or governing bodies. But yeah, I support it. I just think we need to be in better communication going forward. So that's just kind of my, because everybody else asked the questions too, so.
What questions do you guys have for our board?
I guess the one thing that I would just put some dates out in front of you, because we discussed a couple different ones, one being October 31st. For us, we usually like to have about a 6-week lead time if we need to post and hire a position. That would be about mid-September. I don't know if that fits, if you guys can give us direction. And then I know Mrs. Wagner shared that potentially December 31st, kind of the end of first semester, would be another one. That would give us enough time if you guys made that decision November 1st. That gives us 6 weeks before we go on break. We just like to have that window in case this isn't the direction that you guys would like to go. It gives us the ability to pivot, whether that's working with another agency or hiring someone internally. But I think that the biggest question that I wonder is, have you guys found the SRO program, knowing that it has gone on for as many years, valuable?
So I think that's, and our new captain's in the back of the room, is going to be pinned soon, and he drafted this memo for us. And in the past, you served as an SRO too before, correct? You want to step to the mic so we can, thank you. I know you're going to be the center, you're going to be the center of attention next meeting, but you know.
I change clothes for that because I'm not dressed in training. Yeah. Again, I was a school teacher in North Kansas City with Mark Moss, with actually PJ McGinnis. We all work together. See, look at this. And actually we live across the street from each other. So we're neighbors. We have a real unique opportunity here to really make some good changes to this program. We also, with some of the recent paperwork we handed over to the city, we've got some ideas of those changes we want to make that we recognized that were going to be necessary going forward. So I guess if you have some direct questions for the police department, I mean, I can try to answer those for you right now. But what I can say is at bare minimum, if you can give us one more year of this, we have the same meeting and discussion next year, you're going to see a totally different face of this. Again, we've got the people in place at the police department now that we can do some things we weren't doing before. We just didn't have the staff. We are sitting in a very great place at this point to really take this program to the next level. And I would hope that the city would consider that. And again, like I said, at bare minimum, if you can give me one more year at this, it's going to be something different than what we have now, and it's going to be better.
So I've got a question for you. You're saying 1 more year, and maybe this is for staff and the board. You know, our current memorandum of understanding is 3 years, right? Do we look at 1 year and see where we're at in 1 year and then go forwards with like a 2-year or 3-year after that?
We could do whatever the board would direct on that. My thought, and I've taken some notes on this, is that as we had discussed, is that over the course of this semester, have those meetings. I heard several themes come out of, I think, what need to be incorporated in an MOU, including a clarity in the role and expectation of the SROs and the SPOs. Those were new, those weren't included in the prior MOU. Some better information, expectations, and reporting of classroom time and outcomes on that. That specific meeting, which is outlined in there, but as we've discussed, that's been kind of a function of staffing and availability. Although that's a formal meeting, there's significant communication informally existing. More development of a mutual programming focus as to what priorities are for school and for the city, and outline what that programming could look like. Evaluation of the current structure, more formal MOU and accountability. The question of radio access would need to be discussed. Visibility of the SRO throughout the district, and a measurable annual focus and reporting. I think those are things that we could have conversations with over the coming weeks and months. As Captain Ballard noted, you know, we now have staffing to address the situation that we've not had before. That supervisory staffing to help us with that accountability, develop metrics, reporting, and do that in consultation with the school district. I think I didn't directly answer your question. That is something that the board could direct us on, how long you'd like to look at that. My personal opinion would be that it be a little longer term to allow that evolution over time. I think 1 year doesn't allow a lot of time to be able to really do that evaluation. But that's something that we can discuss and maybe bring back recommendations to the board as to how long we would look at that.
Yeah.
Previous MOU was 3-year. The MOU that was adopted in 22-23 was a 3-year then evergreen. Or there was an out clause, but absolutely we'd be open to that.
Yeah, and I think going back to Cynthia's comment on themes, when the school board members first came here to comment and not question, they brought up budget a lot. And I don't think anyone here has said anything about this as a budgetary concern. This is a performance concern. And one of the reasons the sheriff's department is here tonight is because they have an entire department dedicated to this type of thing. And we don't want to do things halfway. If we can't keep an officer at the school for the whole school year and they're in and out, in and out, in and out, which has happened over the last 5 years, right? We haven't had somebody there all 186 days of the school year in my term.
Last year.
Yeah.
Was the first
Yeah.
year.
And
During my term.
right. It's been very difficult to keep our staff there. If Clay County provides a deputy, that's all they do, correct? Lieutenant, sorry. And they would be there dedicated to the school. They don't get pulled unless something really, really went wrong, correct? And this worked for North Kansas City. It's worked for Gladstone, wherever else. What other districts you guys? Okay, where else you guys at for the deputies? Mostly North Kansas City.
Middle schools and high schools in North Kansas.
Okay, so and those are dedicated officers. They don't get pulled to come when we need them, right? That's been kind of the problem the last 6, 7, 8 years, in and out.
Having worked with Officer Archer in Oak Park High School, there are times where we could lose an officer. That out clause is always written into the MOU for the agency to have full access to that officer.
Got it. But and that's the thing is, I think they have curriculum, they have a dedicated department. Until recently, and this is why we started talking about this, when we started reevaluating the police department and splitting up into 2 captains instead of just 1, Captain Ballard has experience in this and can give it the focus that we couldn't before, right? Before our captain or whatever captain ends up with us, if they do end up with it, the captains were primarily focused on the field and the sergeants and making sure things are taken care of, not providing this board with data on SRO performance, right? I don't think we've ever had a report out on that. And when I know when Dr. Sheets talked to Clay County in the past, and I think when you talked to Clay County in the past, it is a more expensive program. And if that's the thing is cost prohibitive for the district, I would even recommend to this board that we pay the difference to make sure that a program continues. But if our department's very confident they can provide that level of service where we have curriculum, we have visibility at all districts or all schools in the district, you know, all the different things that a high performing program has, the board might be inclined to continue it. But from the memo that we received, and I've seen it personally, our officers aren't in the classrooms as much as they used to be. They just aren't. That's the reality, right? I mean, we went from over 100 classroom visits to 10. That's, if you have 5 schools, that's less than 2 per school in an entire school year. I mean, that's like not even being there at all, right? I think Matt Denton's been in the school in a classroom 10 times in the last year.
When was that request made by the department?
I don't know, but it's in the MOU, and that was usually the expectation.
It states that there's a number of.
No, I'm just saying.
Resource or may.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I think again, we
Yeah.
do need to clarify, one of the primary issues has been that supervision and coordination, and you mentioned that as well. I think being able to step back, review, we have information on what board priorities are, and that includes that classroom time. That can be some discussion that we have, bring that forward for board review and feedback as we develop a program.
Right. And one of the things in the MOU that Alderman Wilson brought up was the prevention awareness and those things for drug and alcohol. Just this week, last week alone, I got another email from CIA saying this isn't being done. When are you guys going to make it priority? So the leader of the CIA, Smithville CIA group, is on your board. Why isn't it being made board priority to have the SROs doing that?
CIA emailed you that said the SRO isn't doing it?
That we're not getting enough prevention education in our district.
I think it would be good to have the SRO department or program incorporate that.
And I thought that was the reason why the SRO is at the CIA meetings, to make sure that that gets translated from that group to the students as well.
We have drug prevention programs in our schools. If you'd like to see them, we'd be happy to bring them to you.
I get that. Didn't come through in the memo.
Mayor,
Yep.
if I may, for Cynthia, you guys have a tremendous communications network, and we kind of do our best to that. So I just want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. This is funded through the first semester, correct, Cynthia?
It's funded through the 31st.
Funded through the budget. So October 31st is now, I will say this, we have the funding for the police officer position no matter what. When we say funding is we show the revenues offsetting from the school district through this year. I don't know what the school district budget looks like. Their budget was set for this fiscal year prior. I'm assuming those funds remain in there. We can provide the services. It's making sure that we have that agreement and the offsetting revenues from it. Our budget year ends October 31st.
Right, correct.
Staff's recommendation on that would be that we continue through the semester so that it creates a break, but that we have those conversations to develop a program. And one would hope be able to have something in place so that then second semester we can pick up.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that. I just want to make sure, because I think there's a lot of fear out there that we weren't going to continue it. There was some scrambling within the district to try to fulfill that. And so I just want to make sure that I fully understand that. Sounds like the school board has the funding. We have it slotted. We haven't voted on, obviously, the budget for next year yet,
We
but.
don't till October, but
Right, yeah,
typically.
but we've got some time to put this together and that's the thing. I just want to make sure we communicate that, well, at least what I'm hearing, I'm on board with moving forward with an SRO program with what we've
That's
talked
what we
about.
discussed.
So-
Cynthia has notes.
I guess I'm gonna beat a dead horse here, and we're still going back to, the preventing, those presentations, and it said that the SRO may be asked by the district to provide community-wide. So I think was on the school district to make sure the SRO was conducting those classes.
It says may be asked to make community.
And it
wide.
said
What
may
ways do
be
you guys
asked-
Provide community wide for that as well. Because we do, we have a system that we provided as part of our curriculum.
Okay.
We have resources, any of our groups that would want to reach out to that SRO, we certainly want to connect them with. We connect our families with them when they have questions.
Okay.
There are some things that occur that may occur outside of our schools, but do impact these kids. And sometimes Officer Buckeye or many other officers may be that resource for them to help them understand what that poor decision means for that young person.
I just think that's one of the big ones for going forwards with a new memorandum of
And I think that's
understanding.
one of the
It's that
things-
And a presence in all the class.
And that would be one of the things I think we'd talk about. I think we can have some conversations as to what programs are occurring in schools. How can we complement that? Because we do also provide other programs that may not be prevention related. We provide cybercrime training, whether it's in classrooms or we've provided a number of programs either through the SRO officer, the detective on bullying, online, keeping children safe online. There are a number of programs that we provide throughout the year. A lot of that is focused through the summer when there's more time for that person to be
Yep.
able to work on that as well. I think we can have, again, those staff level conversations, have an understanding of what's provided in schools, and then take a look at where some of the gaps are and what we can do to help. And so I think that partnership and coordination can help identify that.
Yeah, and the pieces that this board has worked on and passed are, and they work closely with Matt and CIA to make the parks smoke-free, pass tobacco 21 before it was federal legislation. And we work closely with CIA to put on the run in the fifth quarter, all in the name of prevention, and worked with them on compliance checks in the past. So we're going to continue to do those things.
We continue to provide a survey that
Yeah.
helps fund CIA. We continue to see our drug and alcohol use decline.
Yep. All good things.
It's always been a kind of an unexpected twist there in about 2020 where that became popular, but those are all things that we certainly continue to tap.
Yeah, and I think if Captain Ballard does tackle this and the board makes a priority, I think working closer with those compliance checks locally instead of Clay County, and really getting in front of the students. That's one of the things I've heard most consistently as a theme is the classroom time has dropped off, and I can't remember what the memo said exactly, but it just seems like the classroom time was not made priority. Yeah. Yeah, it's his memo, so.
The one thing when we were researching this that we came upon, and I called and spoke with several other SROs in the area that I used to work with. And again, you were right. I was an SRO down at Park Hill South many, many years ago. This is not unique to Smithville.
Right.
It is going down, and part of this is, and I remember this back from when I was a teacher, that the demands placed on the teachers now to get more curriculum taught in a shorter amount of time is increasing. So they're kind of we're kind of in a crunch situation with the teachers trying to get all the content that they need taught in a year. Sometimes it's tougher for them to pull out that time. Now, what we have said that we could possibly do, and I'd be glad to help with this, is try to work with our teachers to align our lessons with exactly the curriculum that they're working on at the time. So they're really hopefully not losing some of those instructional hours, that we can be helping them out and augmenting what the teachers are already doing. And that's one of the things we talked about making as a solution. And we talked about that. I've talked with the building principals and they were very amicable to this idea that if we can make that happen, that would be one of the steps we could take to get more of that in. So the teachers aren't losing that instructional time that's very important that they have with their kids.
Gotcha. What other questions you guys have before we move forward?
I don't have any more questions. I just want to make sure that I would like to see the SRO to have the behavioral threat assessment training. I would like the presence to be seen at all the school buildings and classroom time. Those are my three main.
I think we could maybe
Priorities.
look at also an easy transition on getting more classroom time is looking at gaps for each class. Like if the classroom's gonna have a substitute teacher that maybe is just handing out like worksheets for the day, it's not even like a required lesson being taught. Maybe we could get an SRO in then to do a presentation or something beneficial with those children that might not be getting their normal lessons. But I agree with Kelly.
But I do look forward to the partnership. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be great
Thank-
going forward with Captain Ballard now, for sure.
And thank you for answering all the questions
Yeah.
and explaining things from your end. We're not there every day, so we don't know exactly what it looks like. You see that firsthand, so thank you.
Thank you for that, Tim. Thank you.
You guys, thank you. Do you want to draft up some stuff with?
I'm hearing
Chief and
direction from the
Captain,
board
and
that,
we'll do another work session before the budget.
do we want another work session? Do you want, is the board comfortable with directing us to go ahead and work with the school district to develop?
I mean, we have time. I mean, we have till at least the end of this year, I think. I don't think anybody's against funding this through the end of the year for sure.
Absolutely.
It gives us a couple months to
It
develop.
gives us some time
something.
to come up. And so I guess the question, Mayor, I'm trying to clarify, I've taken notes on what we've said there. I noted the items that we had outlined before. Dr. Moz and staff from the school district event and Dr. Collins have been here. Is the board comfortable with us working with them to develop a draft MOU that we could bring forward that outlines that information and kind of an MOU and an operating plan for what things could look like after January 1?
Yes.
I think we need to see the draft of it and then we can go. from there.
Absolutely, but we develop that, absolutely, it would
But
be
you
targeted
develop,
toward
yes.
January 1 and even, and help, so that it would be moving forward, but yes, something that we would bring forward, as Dr. Moss said, in the coming months to be able to prepare them for moving forward as well. But I think moving forward to have something so that we all know we are moving forward with that program in ways that are outlined and we can have that ongoing conversation.
Yes.
But I also think we don't need to wait for a draft MOU. They've heard the board's concerns. I think those steps can start being made right away.
Sure.
Fair? I mean. Okay. So yeah, let's see how the next couple months go and see what we can draft together.
Staff, do we have any clarification we need? Good with? Okay.
Thank you
all.
everyone for being here.
Thank you to the members of the school board and the school district staff.
How many school board members showed up? We've got, I know at least 3. I know the 4th. There's a couple. Thank you for being here too, Lieutenant. I know it's a long drive. Appreciate you. Chief was here trying to get firefighters in the school all day, right? All right, next item on the agenda is our 9-month budget update.
And before Rick gets up, I'll kind of provide a quick introduction to both the 9-month and 2027 budget update. Tonight, we will receive the 9-month budget update for the fiscal year 26 budget. That presentation provides insight into the development of the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget. The recommended budget represents the culmination of months of work by staff leading up to the board retreat in June. At the retreat, staff received feedback and direction from the board on budget development. As you'll see in both the 9-month report and the recommended budget, we consistently take a conservative approach to revenue and expenditure projections and budget development. This consistently results in a year-end fund balance accrual rather than use. The FY27 budget includes planned use of fund balance to continue a focus on infrastructure maintenance, delivery of high-quality programs through excellent customer service, and continued focus on employee recruitment and retention. Rick will present the 9-month update as well as the 2027 recommended budget. And I want to specifically thank Rick, Britton, and management team for their efforts in ongoing budget management and coordination of development of the recommended budget. With that, I'll turn it over to Rick.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. To piggyback just a little bit, I just wanted to make sure Britton got some attention here. He's been here just shy of 6 months, jumped right in, has been doing basically instrumental on the budget this year, getting into the data and getting stuff lined up. So I wanted to make sure people recognize Britton as well during this process. When we look at these for this third quarter, we always kind of review what we've done, just telling the story of the year. We've broken up the budget amendments for board retreat and post board retreat. So this first page here, we have the 5 budget amendments that we did prior to the board retreat. As we look here, we've only had 1 budget amendment that's gone through the board so far post the board retreat. We do list budget amendment number 7, which is proposed for consideration tonight at the regular meeting. Those numbers that we have listed in budget amendment number 7 are included in what we are presenting tonight in our projections. If you look here at the bottom, we did it kind of a breakout of the dollar amounts between pre and post board retreat. On the left-hand side, we have a total of almost $440,000. What I did here to make this comparable to budget amendment number 6 and 7, I took out the public safety sales tax fund, which was the creation of that fund. So just so we can compare apples to apples here. If after doing that, we have more dollar amounts going through after board retreat, which is reflective of the city addressing the general fund reserve balance and using it to address our significant needs. Looking at the general fund, we have projections of just over $8 million on our original budget of 7.1. We will get into some of the details of those differences, but as of right now at third quarter, we are just shy of $6 million. So kind of right on par with our projections. Looking at the expenditure side, you can see that the expenditures have increased over our original budgeted amount. This is directly due to the budget amendments and the board directing us to start using some of our general fund in 26. Property tax. This was our first year for the senior tax freeze in Clay County. When this originally started, Clay County gave us an approximate $15,000 impact to our revenues that we'd receive in 26. After the program got going, they kind of revised that closer to 10,000. We projected just a little bit more than our budgeted amount for the end of the year. We will hit that number. We have received August. We're about $7,000 shy of hitting our projected 2026 budget for property tax at this point. And as usual, we kind of give a 3-year history here so we can kind of see the increases that we've had in the property tax. Going from 24 to 25, we've had about a 2.7% increase. In 25 to 26 projected, we have a 1.12% increase. And we'll dive into the property tax just a little bit more here in a few slides. Sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue is one of, if not the biggest revenue source for the city. As we look at the projections for the end of 2026, we have noticed that there's been a slowdown in the sales tax being received. We are keeping an eye on it. Again, we did receive August before tonight's date. That came in stronger than we had forecasted. So we are hoping that we will get very close to that budgeted amount for 26. Again, looking at that 3-year history, from 24 to 25, we had a 2.4% increase. And from 25 to 26 projected, we have a 3.6% increase. Use tax revenue. Again, use tax, we've been year over year talking about how this has been increasing. Can it remain on this projection going up? We do have this just at $300,000 more than our budgeted for 26 amount. If we kind of look at the changes here year over year, may have just hit a button. Got out of that, thank God. We look at that 3-year history. We had from 24 to 25, roughly a 9% increase. And from 25 to the 26 projected, it is just over a 27% increase. We know that there is some impact from the public safety sales tax as well. So we are in the middle of analyzing this and should be able to have some more data on that soon. This is a slide. We basically took the areas of impact to that revenue for the 2026 budget. We talked about the use tax just a second ago at about 300,000 higher than what we had budgeted. Interest income revenue, again, they have not lowered rates like we kind of predicted. We are predicting that to be about $75,000 higher than what our budget amount was. And what I did there, if you remember, we ended up splitting the interest income out this year, 55% to combined water and wastewater, 45% to the general fund. What I did to make this a comparable chart is I applied those percentages to the previous years. So you can see we've been pretty steady at just over 300,000. Lastly, on this slide is building permit revenue.
Haven't got the check yet.
We have not got the check yet, but we are predicting that we will. When that happens, we are predicting that we will have just over 600,000 in the building permit revenue, which is 3 times more than our budget was for this year. I want to make something very clear. This is one of those funds where we get the money and our work starts after we get the money. So this revenue will help with our inspections, namely Project Rocket Ship. And so when this happens, it'll trigger us to start doing those inspections, and those inspections, the cost of those inspections will be spread over 26 and 27.
It's going to be a lot of walking.
It is.
I will note that as we move forward in the 27 budget, you will see new funding that we hadn't discussed prior to the board retreat, and Rick will outline that. We've in the past used IBTS to help with inspections if our staff is spread too thin. So that's one of the items that we've plugged in as an expenditure there for that backup support, and we'll address that in the
We're not going to get
27 budget.
3 times the permits and expect staff to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Which
Correct.
I'm sure they're thankful of. Or else we're going to get them a couple golf carts to drive around that building.
So just one last comment on this slide. When we see this building permit revenue increase to 600,000, that is definitely a sign of property tax more than likely increasing. We'll probably start seeing something in maybe 28, fully in 29. So we're going to start doing some analysis on that as well. looking at the bottom line for the general fund, highlighted in there is 613,000. We are 613,000 positive to what we thought we would be at the end of this year. So instead of using reserves of 823,000, we are predicting that to be about 210,000. After, if this projection stands pretty close, our reserve will be roughly 56%. That reserve, as the board has directed to us, will be starting to be spent in 26 as well as 27. Historically, since we budget so conservative in both revenues and expenditures, we're always predicting that reserve might go down into the 40–45%. And then at the end of the year, revenues come in pretty positive and it pushes us just about 50. So the board has directed us to start using that on our needs.
Like the sound system in this room.
Like a sound system in 26.
6-7 amendment.
All right, looking at the public safety sales tax fund, just a reminder, we do have a 20% reserve on this. This is heavily personnel. So we did place a 20% reserve on this one. Just real quickly, if we look at the police side, we have those amendments in there. That's due to the police restructuring, more than likely just the second captain and just the restructuring within the police department. If we look at the animal control side, on the projected numbers there, I have decreased those just slightly to align with the hiring of the second captain that will help with the recruitment of the animal control officer. All right, moving on. Any questions on general fund before we move on to combined water and wastewater? Perfect.
Cricket.
Good deal. Okay, in the combined water and wastewater, in the projections for revenues, we have included grant revenue just to kind of show that in there as well. A lot of that grant revenue was with 144th Street lift station. We are in line. We have lowered the expenditures. As we always say, we always get authority to spend the money on the CIP projects. We can't always get them done within that year. So we have lowered that projection to 11.5 million. Breaking out the water and wastewater sales revenues, we have water sales right at 75% for third quarter, and we have wastewater sales just over 79% for the quarter. As a reminder, and I'll mention it a couple times, we did not raise rates in 26 while we were waiting for the 26 rate study to be completed. Looking at the 3-year history of both the water and the wastewater sales, we have predicted that we will come in just shy of last year's actual. Again, that is not raising rates. As we move to the CIP projects that are being done in the utility fund, I won't go through every single one of these, but it'll be kind of a theme throughout each of one of these half-cent sales tax as well. When you're looking at the status, we have a complete in fiscal 26. The project might be substantially done or completely done. We haven't gone through maybe punch list items, or we haven't done final billing yet, or the final reimbursement. So as we go through there, you'll see complete in fiscal 26, or you'll see completed, in process, and we have roughly 4 projects that we're moving from 26 to 27 as well, one of which is the Stonebridge lift station. Looking at the bottom line for the combined water and wastewater fund, I'm going to start in 25 with the total revenues there. The total revenues included the issuance of the 2025 COPs, which then rolled into the beginning balance in 26. We received budget authority on the expense side to spend 16 million and heavily weighted in the projects. And then our projections at this point, again, is at 11.5, which means we have a few projects that will be going to 27 that we'll see here shortly. Looking at the capital improvement sales tax fund, I will try to get through these relatively quick. We have the project status there again on the left, the projects that were slated for this year. We have 2 projects in this fund that have been encumbered into 27. They are the Riverwalk and Trail and the Second Creek sidewalks, construction side of both of those. Looking at the 3-year history of this fund, it definitely stands out in the annual budget for 25. We also had in 25 the Second Creek sidewalks as well as the Riverwalk and Trail, which increased that projected budget to that amount. Transportation and sales tax fund. Again, we are showing our projection for sales tax coming in roughly $100,000 less. When we look at these, we always would assume just in top level that since they're half-cent sales tax, they're all the same, we should be getting the exact same amount for each one. That rarely happens. A lot of what I've been told from the state has been people redoing their tax returns. It affects certain buckets. We've definitely had some action happen in the transportation and sales tax with that projection at 709,000. Here is that 3-year history of the transportation and sales tax. In 25, with that being large again, I just want to isolate that was commercial street sidewalks that we had slated for 25 as well.
And this is where the gas tax goes as well, or does that go to general? It's been increasing over the last couple of years.
Sure.
The gas tax goes to general.
General.
You'll see that as part of the motor fuel tax as part of the intergovernmental funds.
Looking at parks and stormwater sales tax fund, again, we have 2 projects that have been encumbered into 27. We have the Dundee Road stormwater improvements and the Riverwalk and Trail construction. And we are projecting just slightly below budgeted sales tax for this fund. We should receive all of the reimbursement. That reimbursements for the OK Trail. We are just in the final authorizations for final billing on that one. Three-year history of the Parks and Stormwater, pretty consistent in our budget as well as our projections and actual. Here's a visual of the 4 projects that we just kind of went over that went from 26 to 27. I will just point out the Riverwalk and Trail that is now entirely in Parks and Stormwater. It used to be in Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund. Debt Service Fund. This is just an inner city transaction that we pay some of our debt on. That has been completed for 26. Solid Waste. This is one fund that we try to get very close to our revenues. We try not to have too large of a balance in this fund. As you can see, we are right on par with third quarter with revenues at 76% and expenditures at 74%. Also in this fund, the hazardous waste program is ran through. Looking at the VERF fund, right on part, these are budgeted in the departments and transferred to the VERF fund to be paid enterprise out of the VERF fund. And wrapping up the 9-month. Property tax, again, we are projecting to be slightly above what our budget was. Sales tax, we are keeping an eye on this. We are projecting slightly below, but the last month did come in pretty positive. If we have a couple more good months, that could hit budget. Use tax, again, no slowdown. Building permits, self-explanatory there with that 605,000. On the expenditure side, our expenditures have increased just slightly because of budget amendments. And for the capital projects, we are trending very close to our budget with the exception of those 4 projects being moved to 27.
I've noticed we've had a few less budget amendments the last 2 months. I wonder why.
I noticed that too.
Those are all board budget amendments, right? I haven't seen Matt come up here yet. Either.
You just opened the floodgate.
I know it's coming. I just have to give Chuck a little grief since he's gone. Yeah. Anything else for Rick on the 9-month? Looks good. Thank you for including pictures of those projects so we can see it all wrapped up. If you haven't driven down 144th to see the berm and pump station, it's pretty much wrapped up. I think grass seed is about all it needs. Yeah.
Mayor, just one thing that I appreciate you kind of alluding to on a percentages of what, I think internally you're probably tracking that of what's been paid through that project of 100%, right? I don't want to add a whole bunch of layers or extra work, but I would love to see in some of those capital improvement projects, kind of that percentage of what's been paid to what's expected to be done. I don't know if that's hard to do or not hard to do. What I mean by that is if the project's $1 million and we've got 50%, we know it's 500,000's been paid, it's 50%.
Right now, at this point, it'd be easier to do because most of those projects are wrapping up.
Okay.
Final stage. So it's literally going through punch list, confirming that everything's been done, and then the invoices are being sent correctly. So,
But
right now, we could do that pretty easily, I believe.
yeah, and I think as we get into bigger projects though, like Smith's Fork, since Shelby's in the back of the room, I think when we're doing multi-million-dollar projects, I think it's a good expectation if it's a sidewalk, if it's a couple 100,000, it's.
If I just push the button hard enough, or I guess I gotta hold it. Any rate, yeah, we can do that for those future big ticket.
Kind of
projects.
our run
Yeah.
rate on cash flow and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to the 2027 budget. We talked a little bit already tonight about the SRO program, but we got some other stuff to hit on. So it's all yours still, Rick.
All right. Jumping right in here. Just a quick overview of the budget process. We're coming down to the end here. September and October will be the adopting of the budget as we move forward. Looking at all the funds together, we are heavily weighted on the clean water and wastewater project funds. As you can see there on that second line, we have a total in that fund of $24 million. The majority of that is going to be through projects that you'll see here shortly. As we look at the bottom totals there, we see the revenues at just over 31 million and the expenses just shy of 44 million. Again, just like I mentioned in the 9-month, this is a strategic plan on our side directed by the board to start using some of our fund balances.
Rick, can I ask a question here? 2 of the items here, the ending balance projected to be negative. Can you expand on that? The transportation sales tax and the shops at Smithville,
Yes.
the SID.
The transportation sales tax, the number on the expenditure side for 27 is roughly correct. We are now predicting that beginning balance to be quite higher, which will clear up the negative on that one. On the shops at Smithville, we noticed about an hour before this presentation that that beginning balance is 0. The 427. In 26, we did a payment to Gilmore and Bell for legal services directed within the agreement of the shops. So that has used all of that equity that fund was built on. So that beginning balance should have been 0. And then that would end with a ending balance of a roughly $3,000.
But any of the money put into that's either coming from sales tax or the developer, right? It's not other tax buckets.
Right. That 16 million is coming from the developer that we hold on to pay for legal services.
16,000.
16,000.
So 16 million to be a pretty big development. Jack was like, when did we do that one?
Come on, let's catch up. Anything else on that one before we move on? Okay. Looking at the recommended budget by fund, again, combined water and wastewater taking up most of our budget at 24 million. With that being over 50%, that is the result of the city's commitment to the infrastructure, maintenance, and investment into the city's buildings, underground, and whatever else is coming with that, as we'll see here shortly in the project list. Also, just kind of highlight there again, general fund, that's coming in at the 22%, and the transportation fund is the third biggest piece there, coming in at 2.8%, or 2.8 million. Looking at the recommended budget by category, we have the capital investments at just shy of 23 million. Second comes in there, the personnel and services at 8.1 million. And then we kind of get into the operations of all the departments with the commodities and contractual services. As we are developing the budget for 27, we have some general assumptions there at the top. We also have some board directed assumptions with the compensation and benefits. And then down at the bottom there, we added some of the highlights of adding a generator for backup for City Hall. You will see here shortly, we do have that in the admin department. We are going to transfer that to the Parks and Rec department so that the facilities manager can manage that. Also there, down at the bottom is the IBTS contract. That is what Cynthia was talking about as we started here. That's the Institute for Building Technology and Safety. That is the contract that we will have to help us out with inspections. One thing, I'm going to bring it up here, which will kind of roll into the general budget itself on the revenue side. We just got word that Clay County increased their campground fees from $40 to $45 a night. We have traditionally kept in line with what they do. When we present the schedule of fees on September 1st at the next board meeting, we will incorporate that increase to $45 a night. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that, or
I just have one. Are we doing any senior veterans discount on camping? I can't remember if we do or not.
We don't, and I did reach out to Clay County to ask if they do any tiered pricing for camping, and they do not. It's just straight $45.
Okay. And are they doing, and they do more required nights during holidays too? Are we going to look at doing, I think during 4th of July, because 4th of July is going to fall on the weekend again. They usually require like 5 nights minimum. I think if we're going to fall in line with Clay County, we should look into that. But with what the rest of the things we've done with the board, I think maybe looking at a senior discount of some sort might help make us competitive in that space.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of campers are seniors,
Yeah,
so,
seniors and veterans. I
Yeah.
mean, we do it for trash, we do it for other stuff, so.
I'd like that.
When we do have the schedule of fees coming forward
Yeah.
in the coming weeks, is there a direction the board would like to provide on how much of a discount we want to look at?
we'd also need to look into our software to make sure that it's feasible as well.
Yeah. If you could do that, that'd be fine. I mean, I think, what do we do on trash? 10%,
It's 15%.
15,
15.
15.
So senior discount,
hear
but
what-
Mayor, you mentioned something about military. Do you just want to do senior discount only?
Don't know what other
Consistent with what we look
military.
at.
Yeah, I don't know what, I've heard other campgrounds in the area do a senior and military discount, so
15% for both?
if we're gonna, I mean, we're raising the rates and we're offering a nicer campground, I think it's, but we also need to look at doing more required nights if, around holidays especially.
Yeah, it's 3-night minimum for Memorial Day and Labor Day. July 4th, when is usually a 2-night minimum
Okay,
for those. Same with Haunted Campground.
gotcha. Okay, thank you. You asked Rick.
Moving on to the general fund here. Looking at the general fund summary, again, as a reminder, we are very conservative in our approach in the revenues. We base this off economic conditions. We also look at actual and historical numbers when we are developing this. A couple things I want to highlight here, and we alluded to just right in the beginning of the presentation, the intergovernmental line, that does include the wayfinding,
Grant.
the wayfinding grant, as well as the motor fuel tax. That motor fuel tax, that stopped, it got to July 1st of 25, and that was when they stopped with the increases. I think it is 29.5 cents at this point, and they had moved it roughly 2.5 cents per year for like 5 years.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah, something like that.
And Rick, we also need to clarify, this budget, based on the discussions we've had for 27, did not include revenues from the school district for SRO.
reimbursement.
So if the board wishes, we should include that. So we've got that revenue authority, so we can put that back in,
I mean, I think we should through at least the end of the school year.
which is just a few weeks, but should we go ahead and plug it in?
No,
I-
end of the school year, May.
In
27.
Yeah,
May of
end of the
20
school year for this year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Are you okay with this? Plugging it through the bus
Yes.
budget
Yep.
year? So
Yes.
that, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because they don't typically reimburse during the summer, right?
No,
Anyway,
they reimburse for time in
right,
classes.
yeah,
So if they are in summer school, we are reimbursed for that time.
We won't get a reimbursement until about September.
gotcha, cool.
All right, looking at the revenues by category, again, sales and use representing the biggest portion of the revenue that we receive for the city. We also have their property taxes is typically second, and it is second on this pie chart. The only reason intergovernmental is so large, again, is the wayfinding grant that we have coming in 27. Looking at the expenditure summary, we have roughly 9.6 million in the general fund for expenditures. That does comprise, again, that budget amendment number 7 and 26, as well as a handful of the large expenses that we've got approved through the board retreat that are going into 27. Looking at the expenditures by category, again, personnel services at 61.5%. That is right in line with other cities, other companies on the personnel side. Following that up is the commodities and capital outlay on the general side. Usually capital outlay is not so high in the general fund, but again, it's the wayfindings project that we'll have accomplished in 27. Looking at the expenditure by departments. Again, police are taking the 32.7%, just over 3,100,000. Followed up right there with public or Parks and Recreation Department and the Public Works, rounding out those three. The admin is higher, again, just kind of taking out the wayfinding being comparable. That would be four typically coming in there. As we look at that police budget of 3,100,000, the state statute for the Public Safety Sales Tax Fund requires the future police budgets after the 2025 when it was created to be above what the budget was in 2025. That amount in 2025 was 2,744,000. So you can see here that we are well above that floor of the budget for 25 with the budget for 27 at 3.1 million.
What is going on?
There's officers out there.
So as we look at the, this is also, we looked at this and called it the decision packages at one time. So this is the large expenditures that we have coming out of the general fund. Again, this is the expense side that was at the 9.6 million. As you can see here, that's that generator for right off the bat that will be moved down to the Parks and Recreation. One other thing that we see here is in the police side, Centerline and Cellbrite. Those are the two projects that we will do if we get the Blue Shield grant.
It's one of the benefits of having a shared building.
Maybe I can just talk louder here. Looking at the CIP for the general fund, again, it's the wayfinding, 750,000 expense. We are expecting a reimbursement of 600,000 for a net of 150. That brings us to the recommended general fund net change in fund balance. Remember that we have a 25% reserve in the general fund. As you can see there in the recommended 27, the total revenues include the reimbursement for wayfinding. It also includes the expenditure side. For the 27 recommended budget, we are expected to use 1.2 million of fund balance. This represents the planned approach that the city staff and the board has talked about addressing the significant needs that the city has and spending down that reserve balance. If that reserve balance ends up as we have planned here, the percentage will be roughly 36%. Looking at the projected cash flow for the general fund for the next 5 years, you can see there, and I want to reiterate that we do this budget very conservative, not trying to overestimate revenues and not trying to undercut expenses. As you can see there, we are always using just a little bit of the reserve as we go through here. And then roughly 29, 30, we would be addressing some different ways of looking at this. Move on to public safety sales tax. Just a reminder, the 27 budget is the first full year of collections and expenditures out of the public safety sales tax. We are estimating 800,000 in collections and sales tax collections. We do not have history to go from for this fund. So that 800,000 is pretty conservative, and we've kept that 800,000 in the projections going forward. What this graph is something you've come to recognize, and just to be consistent with our communication regarding the fund and the support that it'll pay for, we have it split up between these three columns here. We have the police personnel and benefits cost, the equipment and training to go along with both animal control and police, and then we also have the animal control officer and the needs and commodities that would have to go with that department. Just going to highlight here again, this is our first full year in 27 of this fund, and we are expecting a total of expense of just shy of $770,000. Looking at a cash flow, again, I want to remind that we've used 800,000. We've used that straightforward since we don't have the history of this type of fund. If it stayed at 800,000 and we were able to accomplish the expenses in each one of those years, we would be looking at hitting that 20% reserve in late 2030. As you guys are all aware, we usually show hitting reserve 3 or 4 years out. We've never even come close to that. We will always keep an eye on this and won't hit that reserve in this fund.
And just as a reminder as well, with the public safety sales tax, we do on twice a year, we provide information to the sales tax review committee, so they will see this information as well.
All right, looking at the recommended police expenditures, we have a total expenditures for the police of just over 3.9 million. That again is that number 3,153,000, which you recognize coming from the general fund, and then also the budget in the public safety sales tax of 770,000. And again, just as a reminder, that 2.7 million is the number we have to be above per state statute for this fund. Looking at the combined water and wastewater fund, starting off again, we did not raise rates in 2026. We were going through a rate study, and that rate study took into consideration the operations and maintenance of our capital improvement cost. It indicated that we would have to have multiple debt issuance over the next years, and the key driver to these rates, as well as our debt, is the city's capital improvement plan. Looking at the bottom line for the combined water and wastewater fund, again, I'm going to start in 25, kind of a repeat here, but very important to understand. We had the 2025 COP issuance, which hit the revenues in 2025. That balance got rolled over to 26. We are projecting in 26 of the 11.5 million in expenditures, creating a use of reserve balance of 600,000. And then rolling that into 27, we have the total revenues of 14.3. That does include a $6 million placeholder for COPs. That is our cap funding issuance to be able to make sure all these projects continue planned. And then the total expenses, again, is just over that 4 million, with the majority of that being the CIP projects that will be funded by that 25 COP issuance and using reserve balance. Looking at the projected cash flow for the combined water and wastewater, we have that decreasing down to 29. 29 is our projected year of having to go for more debt issuance. that would be starting, kind of wrapping up the wastewater projects and starting the water projects at that point. We are tackling, with all of this capital improvement plan projects, we are tackling the wastewater side first. Looking at the water capital improvement plan projects, we have a total for 27 of just over 2.7 million. And as you can see there, we kind of have that broken out, kind of increasing over the next couple of years, and ending with in 31 at the 5-year projection. We have the capacity improvements mostly on the engineering side, which is be starting to get into the water projects. Looking at the wastewater projects, we have just over 12 million slated for 2027. Again, this is use of the 2025 COPs as well as use of reserve balance. In the next 5 years, we do have some expenditures in the wastewater impact project fund or line item. That is going to be for the wastewater treatment plant expansion, engineering. That is coming at just over 1.1 million. We do not have in the next 5 years slated at this point anything for the water impact project fees. Looking at these half-cent sales tax funds, the transportation sales tax fund, we have just over 1.3 million. We have a pretty large project with First and Bridge roundabout slated to happen in 27. We look at that 5-year projected cash flow for the transportation sales tax fund. Let me scoot back here, maybe. As you can see, wrong way. As you can see there, we do have a reimbursement for that First and Bridge construction of just shy of 1.3 million. When we're going through that, just like in 25, staff will be making sure that we are not hitting zero in that budget and making sure that we are getting reimbursed timely before the next invoice.
Rick, I want to comment there, which I did at our retreat. I know you don't have anything in the annual asphalt overlay for this next year. I don't know if we could look at hopefully maybe increasing it in 28 to make up for what maybe gets neglected in 27 of raising that
We will
from
be-
350,000.
We will be looking at this in 27 itself. Depending on the timing of when that project starts, we may not get it all done in 27, which would free up just a little bit of funding. And we know that we're going to be looking at those annual programs in 27.
Well, and just to help you sleep a little better at night, I know that at Mark, we've talked about doing like we did in the past where it was like the whole Mark region, trying to do some more overlays that are region-wide and combining those contracts. It went really, really well last time, and that's what helped cover some of our ones that we didn't have budgeted. And I think we're still looking to doing that with some of the federal transportation dollars. So, but we are doing a lot more patching and repairs with all the new equipment we have. So it is, I think, saving us some time on having to do a bunch of overlays too.
Yeah, in fact, we've, on Park Drive, there's some repairs that be made, but we're gonna do those internal. But we're waiting for the beginning of the fiscal year, so I have money, so, yeah.
And back to the mayor's comment on the mark allocations, we mentioned earlier that we had seen fewer change orders with a transition in leadership. The transition in leadership, we continue to have representation on that mark.
Yeah.
All of those committees. So we are always trying to identify and ensure that we have access to the funds.
I think they just hid the budget amendment form from Matt, so he can't use it until he's been here 6 months or something like that. So
Yeah, get to, we can't have any more
Yeah.
budget amendments between now and the end of the year. So
yeah,
you'll see them all rolled 27.
I found it, so you'll see early on.
it's still hot. You can put it down. It's fine.
Moving on to the capital improvement sales tax fund. We have slated for 27, 1.2 million in projects. We have the Second Creek sidewalks construction being the biggest project that will be tackled in this fund in 27. As you can see there, as we get to 29, 30, and 31, we've intentionally kept these open for other project opportunities. We have a ton of projects that we will be tackling over the next couple of years. So leaving this open allows us some flexibility to fill in projects when they come up. You'll see this in one of the other funds here as we go forward. Looking at the 5-year cash flow on this one, we are projected to be relatively healthy in this fund over the next 5 years. Again, with that increasing in 29, 30, and 31, I can guarantee you a project will come up and that we will fill into these as we move forward. Looking at the Park and Stormwater Sales Tax Fund, we have just shy of 900,000 slated for 27. And then we have that Smith Fork Park Complex in 28. We do have that still in there at the 2.2 million. And we've left that intentionally open afterwards, just not knowing exactly what's going to come out of that Smith Fork Park Complex. Which, just like the capital sales tax fund, you have that fund balance increasing quite a bit in 29, 30, and 30 because of those open projects. This is one more review of the 26 projects being encumbered into 27. We have those 4 projects that are totaling about 3.9 million. We'll just pinpoint one of those, walk and trail construction. That used to be in the capital improvement sales tax fund. That is now entirely coming out of the Park and Water Sales Tax Fund, 27. Looking at all projects for the next 5 years, we have slated just over $61 million of projects for the next 5 years. Next year, we have that total, both the capital improvement sales tax fund between general and utilities of $19.5 million.
I'll just highlight, we've had significant discussion over the last several months over those infrastructure needs. This budget reflects that focus on funding and moving those projects along.
Well, and again, it's an investment in our infrastructure. It's not just spending on stuff that's going to get thrown away in 5 years. This is sewers that we've had since the 1940s and water that we've had. There's water plant that we've had for 50 years when they did it. I mean, it's long-term investment, not, putting in turf on a baseball field. I mean, we're doing big projects.
Looking at the last couple of funds here, we have the vehicle and replacement fund. One thing to point out here, we do have one more vehicle from probably the last time we reported this to you. We have the patrol vehicle waiting for that to be in service. So we are at 39 vehicles. Another bit of information for the 28 budget. We are going to be incorporating what this fund was originally set up to be with also the equipment. That equipment side will take place, we hope to take place of like those decision packages or large expenditures. So that way we just know in the next 1 to 5 years, maybe even out to 10 years, kind of a replacement plan for all of our equipment. So we can have a little more predictability on what we plan on spending. Looking at that cash flow out of the VERF fund now, a reminder, all of the revenues that go into this are transfers from the department's budgets for the vehicles that they have. So we have this kind of going in line with revenues and expenditures. Our methodology for 27 going forward We are expecting between 40,000 and 50,000 to go to fund balance each year. That fund balance is intentionally made to increase. So if we had to get rid of enterprise, something, and we had to get rid of enterprise, not only do we have fund balance, but we also have equity in those vehicles. So after selling them, fund balance, we're able to go out and purchase the vehicle we need.
I know that was one of your concerns, Alderman Wilson, when we started this, and I think we've gotten to a good place where between equity and what's in the bank, we could probably replace it if we needed to.
And that sanitation fund, one of the other larger funds, we budget this directly in line with revenues and expenses. We try not to be too much higher on the expense side of the revenues that we collect. We were very successful in getting a multi-year contract with GFL. Over the next 2 years, our trash rate increases 1.7%. And then the following 2 years, 2.5%, which is very good in this industry. Wrapping up here, again, looking at the 27 revenues, broken record here, but we are definitely using debt issuance and fund balance in the next year to tackle a lot of these projects that we have going on. It's definitely reflected in the 31.7 million in revenues and expenditures of 43.7 million. And that kind of wraps up our 27 budget discussion at this point. September, we have a couple highlight a couple things. September, we have the schedule of fees as well as the property tax levy that will be set in September. And then October is adopting the budget. So
If I could jump in here a little bit, we have scheduled second discussion as necessary for September 1st. Is there any additional direction? I know the board discussed, we've included revenues for the school district for the SRO program. We've talked about the schedule of fees and adjusting those to provide discounts. Is there any other information or changes that the board would like to see? Otherwise, we'll work toward bringing the budget forward for adoption.
I haven't heard any, and I'd like to see the draft budget sooner rather than later. If we can get that and maybe get the reading ahead of time, that's fine too.
We will
Works for staff.
work toward what we can get to get that around as soon as we can. That we want to provide a full document.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that it's correct and been able to be through the review process.
I don't think we need another review though.
Okay. One question I do have, and Matt mentioned, you all have talked about discounts. We bring the schedule fees forward. We have that on the agenda for September 1st. That allows enough time. That's when we have September 1st is when we'll have public hearing for the wastewater rates. That also allows us to provide adopting the schedule fees, outlines the water and sewer rates, provides us opportunity to notify the water district of those changes. Matt indicated that we would need to check and confirm that our existing system would allow those discounts. If the system does not allow that, do you want us to proceed with the budget not including those discounts? That would be the only point of discussion that we need to get.
I guess I'd like to understand if they don't allow, is there anything we can do to fix that in a timely
Right, and
manner?
that's, I
Yeah,
would like
so-
for us to be able to do.
Because I mean,
Let us look internally as well. We may not need to, we could push the schedule fees back as long as the board's intent, and we can notify the water district of those changes, and we can continue looking at those schedule fees and have some discussion of how we can implement something,
Well, also-
working around something in the system.
Also, camping season doesn't start till April, so we could.
This is true. We could
amend it
plan and implement it, figure out a way to implement it. That is a fair point.
The water district and sewer district need to be notified.
Yes.
We need to get that done, and we everything else done. We
Okay.
have till April, figure it out.
We can, that makes perfect sense. Very good.
Anything else? I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn, and then we could start a regular session with the intent of taking a quick recess after the pinning, so people can get out that are here for the pinning. Is that okay with everybody?
So
To adjourn the work session, start the regular session, get through the first part, Trevor can get pinned and some of these folks get on their way, and then we can take a recess.
I'm good with that.
All
Someone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Those in favor of adjourning work session, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. As soon as it is ready, we'll start the regular session and get through the first part of the
And
agenda.
we do want to make sure we're able to get Trevor here because
Yeah.
I think been a little busy. We've
Yeah,
heard that.
is he over there?
So the mayor or the chief is, I think, gone to go get him.
Jeff,
So
can you give a
we'll-
secret knock on the wall?